It's episode 219 of the Author Stories podcast. I'm your host, Hank Garner. Find all of the archives of the show over at hankgarner.com, and when you're there, please subscribe. Today is the second show of our special DragonCon 2017 coverage, and today I'm bringing you a Q&A panel with Jim Butcher, an hour with Jim Butcher. This is a lot of fun. I hope you're going to enjoy it. I would like to thank our executive producers who generously donated to help cover the DragonCon 2017 expenses that we had. Jason Onspach and Nick Cole's Galaxy's Edge, Will Swardstrom, Chris Porteau, Doug Bradley, Stefan Boltz, Eamon Ambrose, Rhett Bruno, Crystal Watanabe, Thomas Hickok, Philip Harris, Alexander Moore, Christopher Vallon, Kat Feeler, Patricia Gilliam, Samuel Peralta, Bob Williams, Ed Gosney, Rob Roy McCandless, James Slater, Rory Donahue, Deborah Capps Kennedy, Greg Martell, Alicia Myers, Michael Nelson, Chris Fox, Richard Fox, and John Frater. Thank you all so much for your generosity and for helping executive produce the special DragonCon 2017 coverage. While at DragonCon, they held the second annual DragonCon Awards, and our good friend Richard Fox won Best Military Sci-Fi for his book Iron Dragoons. And to help celebrate, Richard has placed that book on Amazon for free for the entirety of the week. So if you've not picked up Iron Dragoons yet, go pick it up. It's free right now. There's a link to it in the show notes. I'd like to tell you about some sponsors that I'm very happy to have today. Pico's House. Authors, if you're looking to take your book to the next level, you need to talk to my friend Crystal Pico Watanabe from Pico's House. She offers developmental editing, line editing, beta reading, and proofreading. She will soon be launching a book interior design service, print formatting, but you can inquire about that now if you're interested. She's edited over 70 novels and novellas and 130 short stories, and she comes recommended by best-selling authors such as Hugh Howey and Samuel Peralta. Most of her experiences with science fiction, speculative fiction, and middle-grade fantasy, but she enjoys all genres and would love to talk to you about your book project. She offers complimentary 2-page sample edits and complimentary track changes review after the edit. Visit picoshouse.com and let her know that you heard about it on Author Stories, and she'll give you a discount. That's PIKKOSHOUSE.com. Galactic Satori Chronicles, written by Nick Breaker and Paul E. Hicks, is a raucous sci-fi adventure introducing Asher, a young man whose world is turned upside down when he discovers that his fiance's death has been directly caused by an imminent alien invasion. He and his friends channeled his anger and grief into the ultimate weapon against alien technology. Human emotions were the one thing the Kron didn't account for when they started their attack on Earth. Book 1 Earth and Book 2 Kron are now available. Galactic Satori Chronicles. My good friend Stefan Boltz has recently released a new book, and it's called Six String. Jennifer Dalton dreamed of being a singer for as long as she could remember. That dream has kept her alive throughout a childhood mired in poverty in a broken and abusive home. When her younger brother dies and her mother takes refuge in alcohol, the emotional toll becomes unbearable. One morning she runs away, taking with her the one thing she owns, her beloved six-string guitar. This is the story of a girl finding herself alone in the good and the bad, the friends she makes, and a choice that could rob her of everything she's won. Six String by Stefan Boltz. Tears of Heaven, Flames of Perdition, Book 1 by R.A. McCandless. A child of angels and humans, Dell is a sarcastic, fast-talking, dangerous, and unpredictable demon hunter. She and her partner, Marin, take their orders directly from the angel Ahadiel. They obey, or they'll be destroyed. It's not the job Dell wants, but it's the job she has. Normally, banishing a rogue demon back to hell wouldn't be a problem. Dell and Marin have a few centuries of experience. It's all part of the job description. But when Ahadiel orders them to take down 3 demons at once, the job goes from bad to worse. The demons with supernatural powers and their own agenda have kidnapped children for their own nefarious ends. With angels breathing down her neck, children to save, and demons gunning for her blood, Dell is running out of time. That's exactly where she wants to be. If you're a fan of Dresden Files, you're going to love this book. Tears of Heaven, Flames of Perdition, Book 1 by R.A. McCandless, and Book 2 is about to drop anytime now. More news about that coming soon. Thanks to my good friend Ed Gosney. With over 100 episodes of cool comics in my collection to date, Ed Gosney highlights comic collecting and fandom in a whole new light. Each week, Ed peels back the layers of your favorite comics and brings you something new. Featuring books in his personal collection as well as some that got away, Cool Comics in My Collection is your go-to for comics nostalgia. EdGosney.com. Hey authors, you know that your book has to be edited to the highest quality standards to set it apart from the pack, but what about the visual presentation? Kevin Summers at LiteraryOutlaw.com offers the very best in artisanal book formatting to make your book shine. Visit LiteraryOutlaw.com and tell Kevin you heard about him on Author Stories and receive a discount. Kevin is who I use for my book formatting. He carries the Author Stories seal of approval. LiteraryOutlaw.com. Also, thanks to Jason Onspach and Nick Cole and their Galaxy's Edge series for sponsoring the show. The very best in space opera, military sci-fi, Star Wars, not Star Wars, is some of the best reading I've had this year. Go check out Galaxy's Edge. There are 3 books out so far. The 4th one is on its way shortly. Galaxy's Edge by Jason Onspach and Nick Cole. Stay tuned after the show for an audiobook clip from Richard Gleaves' The Jason Crane series. Thanks for listening.
And what we will do is we have a couple of people with microphones, and let's see, where are those people? We've got Melinda right here, and Karen over here, standing up. If you would like to ask Jim a question, please go stand with those ladies. And in the meantime, I have a question for him, so you can begin lining up right now. Now, if Harry were to go visit another urban fantasy series, which one would that be, do you think? And what would happen to him?
Let me think. He could probably consult with Anita Blake, but he would find her far too scary and intense, and he wouldn't want to be around that for very long. That's too spooky. He could hang out. He could probably hang out in Cazador with the monster hunters from Correa's books, but he would be worth so much puff. I don't know that he'd get out of that one alive. So I don't know. He could hang out with Atticus and feel outclassed. Although he'd look at Oberon and be like, really? And yeah, Oberon would be like, he's my guy, man. Anyway.
So any of those, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what would he, if he had made a guest appearance in the Aeronauts Windless, what would he have been doing?
Probably being crazier than most of the other wizards in there. I mean, if he wound up in that world, he's got so much power that he'd be completely loopy. So that might be interesting. I don't know. I think he might be a villain in that world.
Oh well, that's a good.
Harry Dresden, Dark Lord.
Yeah. Yeah, I have in my notes from years past that he's the magic plumber, so now it could be Harry Dresden, Dark Lord.
Yeah.
In the Aeronauts Windless, or in the Cinder Spires series. Okay, so we have some questions over here. We'll start with Karen.
Hi, I was wondering how Harry manages to heal himself so quickly, especially in the earlier books, from dislocated shoulder, gunshot wound to the thigh, etc.
Right. It's not so much that he heals quickly as that typical healing patterns for humans are you get considerably better in fairly short order, but then there's like this long trail off period where it takes more time to recover from an injury. In the Dresden Files world, wizards are a little bit better off than other people in that sense because they don't have the trail off period. So it's not like he heals faster than most humans, but only. It wouldn't be remarkable unless you compared him side by side with somebody who was injured in the same way at the same time. And then you look at Harry and go, wow, he got better a lot faster. Which is, I mean, that's a factor of wizards. It's the thing about their biology that makes them able to live so long is that they keep healing all the little things that the rest of us just have to live with. So I mean, that's essentially how I did it because I wanted him able to get beaten up more. And I wanted him to be able to recover in order to get beaten up more after that. But I didn't want to give him enough healing to actually help in any of the fights. he gets just enough to get to the next fight and get beat up again, and that's why it works like that. You're welcome.
Over here.
So when you introduce new characters like Thomas or Vadaron, do you have an idea of where they're going and who they are, or does some of that kind of just develop a couple books later when they come back?
It depends on the character. Sometimes I know exactly what I'm doing right from the get-go. I knew Murphy's entire story arc, for example, right from the get-go, from when I got started. I knew what was going to happen to Michael right from the get-go. Other characters, no. It's just like, boom. Hi, Butters. Butters was a one-off character that he was an extra on the show that was just there there was a particularly gruesome morgue scene where people were brushing bits of, cubes of meat off of a corpse. And I wanted somebody there who would kind of lighten that scene a little bit. With a little bit of comedy relief. So basically what I did was I stole the medical examiner from the movie The Prophecy, and I shaved off his head and put a black curly wig on him and made him shorter and skinnier and Jewish and with a polka fetish. And that was going to be my little one-off character. But he was so popular that then later in the series, this was actually one of those things that the exigencies of the service, as it were, demanded that I change some things, because originally the 7th book was going to be Proven Guilty, and Deadbeat wasn't going to be until book 8. But my editor came to me and asked me about the plot to Proven Guilty, and I was like, well, it's a little bit more of a quiet plot. It's going to be focused on Molly Carpenter and Harry picking up an apprentice. And she's like, yeah, you might want to think about a plot that's a little bit bigger, a little bit thicker, a little bit heavier. And I'm like, are you saying I'm going to hardback? She says, I'm not saying that. But you should take my advice. And so I'm like, okay. And so I was writing this book a year early. I had to rearrange because, I had to start breaking ground the next day. So I had like a day to outline it. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, well, I've got to give Harry a sidekick, because he has a sidekick in every book. Who's Harry's sidekick in this book going to be? And he's going to be fighting necromancers. And let me think. Who's a really good balance to necromancers? The medical examiner, because we've got that death theme going on. The whole thing. We're going to have zombies countered by medical examiner. That's perfect because it's thematic, and yet no help to Dresden whatsoever. Plus, we were moving into hardback and everything, and this was a character that I needed, and I was going to bring him in. And once I had him in there, the benefit of it was that from a business perspective, I needed this character there who would be around asking Dresden all kinds of questions, because this was the first hardback, which meant it was going to be an introduction book for a lot of people. So I had to have somebody who was around who didn't know what was going on, so we could ask Harry questions so that the audience wouldn't feel stupid when things happened that they didn't understand. I could have somebody there going, what the hell was that? And that's what Butters' role was to be the what the hell was that guy. But then I realized, oh wait, Butters is really smart and has a really serious conscience, and so he's going to be more involved in that. And so Butters immediately started doing what nerds do. He started learning. And so that was, and he's just kept that up, and now he's, a something knight.
Oh, over this side.
Hey Jim, just one really quick question for you. Are Wizards of the White Council required to have a staff, and also are wardens required to carry them, or is it more like a preferential thing?
They're not required to, but they're traditional, which is a huge societal factor in a society of people who live 350 years. Tradition is a big deal when somebody's 3 centuries old. It's also causing a lot of problems, because when you're 3 centuries old, you don't know what Uber is. There's issues. The Wizards, when you've got a lot of power and a lot of money and you're very comfortable, you don't necessarily want things to change, so you don't adjust to the new things very well. And that's part of the problems with the White Council, is just that they've kind of got this inertia that is just unbelievable. I'm sorry, what was the question again? I'm halfway through my first caffeine of the day.
Basically,
do they have to carry the staff? That's right. They don't have to, but it's such a useful tool. It's kind of dumb not to. It's sort of, Wizard 101 is, all right, and now we're going to make your first staff, you know, and because you can use the staff for a lot of different things. It's a generalized tool, so it's super useful. Plus, you can thump people on the head with it if you have to. And I mean, really, just having something solid that you can put between you and the monster when you need to do it is kind of a big deal. You know, it's good not to just rely completely on the magic. Although the really advanced wizards kind of look at staffs and are like, child's toys, you know, like that. But at the same time, though, I mean, they just get used to it. I mean, Harry wouldn't go anywhere without a staff. He wouldn't even think about it. I had to boggle at your question for a second because I was like, required to have a staff? Yeah. Well, no, not required, but there's just no universe in which the wardens don't tote staves around, you know. So, but anyway, yeah, there you go.
Over here.
So you've already written a Spider-Man book, and now you've written in Monster Hunter International's world. What other worlds or fandoms would you like to write in, given the chance?
First of all, let's establish a division of things I would like to do and things I have time to do.
In a perfect world, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm finding out. I'm at this point in my career, the most valuable resource I have is time. So not. Being able to spend time on something else is kind of a luxury. But if assuming that we could insert another day between Saturday and Sunday, which, frankly, I think there should be a constitutional amendment for that. We're going to have another day. It's called Awesome Day. It comes between Saturday and Sunday. All right, write your congressman. But assuming we could do that, then I would. There's a bunch of different places that would be fun to mess around in. I've had ideas for Weber's Honor Harrington universe. I kind of want to write a duo of a marine recon, Manicore and Marine recon with his tree cat buddy. And the tree cat's got like the little, like it just happens to have his fur patterns have little chevrons on his forehead, so everybody calls him Sarge. Because that would be a lot of fun. I mean, there's lots of places I would love to write. I would love to take a stab at Robert B. Parker's world. He's my hero as a writer. Robert B. Parker, I don't know, he wrote the Spencer books and a bunch of other things. He wrote books for years and years and years. They came out on a regular basis. They were all good. They weren't very long because the man was brilliant. And he just kept writing and saying some, good and important things. I think he wrote the best long-running serious relationship in mystery that's ever been done between Spencer and Susan. And then Robert Parker, when he died at the keyboard like a man. Man, that is my goal. He lived a long life, wrote awesome books, died while he was working. It's like, okay, that's cool. I would love to do that. Just kind of that would be a spiritual experience for me. And there's probably other people. I mean, I like. I feel that what I'm best at is not inventing things, but kind of taking them and taking something that seems really awesome and saying, you know what, I bet I can do something really cool with this, and then start playing with it and rearranging things. I don't consider myself a terribly original writer, but there you go. But it'd be fun to play in almost anybody's world.
And we all like the idea of the extra day, I think. Don't you guys like that?
Yes, awesome day.
Yes.
Hashtag awesome day. We're gonna get this done.
Yeah, there you go. Over here.
What is the most interesting or surprising thing that you think you've learned about yourself through your writing?
Oh, that I've learned about myself? Oh, that I really hate self-reflection. Sometimes I worry that I'm a little too nice and get walked on. I just hate saying no to people. I like to say yes to people and make them happy. So I'm at too many conventions, not getting enough work done, that kind of thing, So, for being at conventions, not getting work done, no. Yeah, see, you say this to my face, but later you'll be like, I really wish that next book would come out. And it's like, I see you.
Okay, this side.
Does Oberon still exist as a mantle?
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Does Oberon still exist as a mantle in the universe?
Oh, does Oberon still exist? No, he died horribly around Shakespeare's time. Oberon tried to get between, tried to run a game with Mab and Titania, and you can imagine how that ended up. That was one of those things where Prometheus is like, oh, poor guy. Oh. But
Okay.
who's next?
Did you get next question?
With Briefcases coming out next year, have you ever considered writing a Donald Morgan focused or POV short story?
I've thought about it. Morgan is but he's such a harsh and rigid character. It would be kind of cool to get inside his head, because he's actually, as a person, he's not all that bad a guy. He's just a professional monster. I mean, there's a difference there somewhere. Morgan got to see a whole bunch of really, really horrible things. Morgan's a guy who his parents and family were killed by the necromancer Kemmler. He was rescued by Anastasia Lucio, which, if you haven't read the short story yet, we're in the Old West with Lucio. It's called A Fistful of Warlocks. And I'm writing that, and I'm going, man, this could be movies. This is fun. In my copious spare time, I can do more. But it would be cool to write a story from his point of view, because he's a guy who has seen horrible things and knows the kind of horrible things that can happen. And so people look at him and go, oh, you're too rigid, you're too mean, you're too harsh. And Morgan's like, no, you don't even know what harsh is. This isn't too harsh. This is necessary to keep the real things out. Which has always been his attitude, and the attitude of many people who have to face horrible things that other people never have to see because they're out there facing it. But he'd make a cool story, but man, it'd be kind of a downer. He had a bad life. It was a rough life. Sure.
Thank you.
Hello. So I had two quick questions. The first is whether the archive or Ivy can receive digital data in addition to whatever's written down. And the second is that it's been established that mortal names fluctuate, so that it's not very useful to have them. But Harry is worried about giving out his name to Chauncey in the second book, I think. So
yeah, giving out his whole name.
Right.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, he doesn't want to give out his whole name to a freaking demon from capital H hell. Not just some random hell, the hell. Not generic hell. Brand name hell. So yeah, he didn't want to give his name to him. But yeah, the use of the true name for humans is different than it is for like other creatures. Other creatures aren't as malleable as humans are. Humans have free will, they have choice, and you go around your day every day as a human being making dozens or hundreds of choices that kind of inform who you are as a person. I mean, that's just what we do as humans. And over time, that can change you if you start making different choices. And if that happens, then you don't think of yourself the same way anymore. You won't even say your name the same anymore, necessarily. Not precisely. I mean, you'd have to get like a microphone and record it and see the digital thing to change it. But wizards just kind of get that part instinctively because they've been doing it for thousands of years. But as far as Ivy getting digital information, yes, and she wasn't built for it, and you'll get to see more of that at some point soon.
Something to look forward to.
I basically these days, Ivy's like, porn, so much porn. Because, let's be honest, the internet's it's like, I mean, literally, the traffic on the internet is like 15% of the entire traffic of the internet is porn. 9% is League of Legends, and then there's everything else. No, that's literally true. I visited Riot Games, and up to between 6 and 9% of the traffic on the internet at any one time is League of Legends, all by itself. Yeah, it's the largest intellectual property in the history of mankind. So. And I don't want to hear anything from you Dota people. You're not real gamers. I have this fight with my nephew all the time. I can't not do it. Okay, over here.
Yeah.
Hi, Jim. I was wondering where you got your inspiration for the Fury-based magic system in Codex Alera?
For the Fury-based system in Codex Alera? Okay, this is a story. Now you've stumbled upon a story here. many moons ago, before the 2000s, when the internet was new and history was as yet a dream, there was Del Rey ran an online writers workshop for people who wanted to be writers, and basically what it was it was basically a bulletin board where you could post your stuff and writers could talk about things, and occasionally an editor or author would come by and take a look at things and say something and then flee in horror. As they were immediately as 50,000 people tried to bury them with their short stories and manuscripts whenever they surfaced. But so mostly it was the wannabe writers, and I was sort of at the end of my wannabe writer period because I'd already been working for many years. And there was an argument that was going on online, and it was one of those arguments where you read the other guy's what he had to say, and then you hit reply, caps lock, start typing. And this particular argument that had come down was this argument between the idea of there was one side of the argument that held up the notion that what you needed for a good book was a good idea. If you had the holy idea, THI, then your book would be successful no matter how terribly written it was. And they held up Jurassic Park as an example. You know, it's like, look, this couldn't miss. Genetically re-engineered dinosaurs, nobody could screw that up. And so that was one side of the argument. The other side of the argument was, this was the side I was on, was that no matter how old and tired and worn out a story is, a writer, if you're really a writer, you can put your own spin on that story and make it a good story that people are going to like and enjoy. How many versions of Romeo and Juliet have we seen? You know, like that. So that argument went back and forth for a while. And finally, and I was sort of championing this side, and there was another guy championing this side. And finally he says, why don't you put your money where your mouth is? Why don't you let me give you a terrible idea, and we'll see if you can write it into a successful story. And because I was younger and cockier and thought more of myself at the time, I said, no, I tell you what, why don't you give me 2 terrible ideas, and I'll use them both. And the guy says, fine. First idea is Lost Roman Legion. I'm so sick of Lost Roman Legions. All the Lost Roman Legions should have been found by now. I said, okay, Lost Roman Legion, got it. What's the second terrible idea? And he says, Pokemon. And I'm looking at this person, and thinking, man, have you seen the way kids react to Pokemon? That is not a terrible idea. That is a gold mine. I mean, this is right when it had come on TV. They hadn't even come out with the Jungle set yet. You know, not that I collected Pokemon. Listen, my kid was little, and I needed things I could do with him. And no one can defeat my Mr. Mime deck. His invisible wall is unstoppable. But anyway, so I said, okay, and I took those 2 ideas, and I went out and I looked up Lost Roman Legions. Lost Roman Legions, generally, when you talk about a Lost Roman Legion, there's been a couple or 3, but generally they're referring to the 9th Hibernian Legion that marched off north of the Wall in England and into Scotland and was never seen again. And there's a lot of theories about what happened to them. Some of them think that they just abandoned Rome and settled down and blended in with the natives, and some people think they were ambushed, and there's also a historical account of them marching into a thunderstorm and never coming out again. Which, I personally think they just ran into a bunch of angry Scots and that was that. Because, there was a reason there was constant conflict in Scotland, because people kept trying to take them over and the Scots kept objecting. But so I said, okay, we got the 9th Hibernian Legion, and they marched off into the thunderstorm because that's useful for me. Where did they go? Landed the Pokemon. Okay, time to investigate the Pokemon. So, and the Pokemon itself is a fusion idea. It's a mashup. It's a mashup of the Shinto religion that holds that there are spirits in all natural things, and that those spirits have power and can act upon the world and should be respected. And that if there's a mountain has a spirit in it, and that is something you darn well better respect. And if there's a pebble, the pebble has a spirit in it, and you should also respect the pebble, but, if you don't, it's a pebble. And so then then Pokemon took that idea and fused it with professional wrestling. And that's where Pokemon came from. So I said, okay, well, I tell you what, we'll have these spirits, these same kind of Shinto-y spirits that are there, and we'll have them interacting with these spirits. I've got to come up with a name for them, though. I got to have a good name. And in the background, I was watching Big Trouble in Little China because, As you do. And it just got to the part where Egg Shen says, all movement in the universe is caused by tension between positive and negative furies. And I went, ooh, furies. It's even Greco-Roman. That's awesome. And so I said, well, okay, we're going to call them Furies, and then we're start. But if you read through that series again, and you get to the first battle at the ford, where everyone is summoning their Furies, the first Fury fight at the river, and it's like, Brutus, I choose you. I mean, it's really, just start playing the Pokemon music at the start of that, and you'll go, that Jim Butcher is a damn hack. So that's where it came from.
Hi, Jim.
Hi.
I've read somewhere that you managed to survive the curse of a Brazilian witch doctor. How did you manage that?
Okay, there's another story. Yeah, I got cursed by a witch doctor in Brazil. When I was a kid, I grew up on the fun end of fundamental Christianity, as opposed to the mental end of fundamental Christianity, and they are both there. And there's probably some duh in the middle. But we were on a mission trip to Brazil, and so what we did was we went down to Rio, and during the week we went out, and I was with a choir. It was a multi-denominational organization made up of kids from churches from all over Kansas City, and so we went out and we would go down and sing, and we would sing at the harbor in Brazil, where people would commute back and forth from their jobs to their homes in Rio. This was an exciting party Rio. This was middle of the winter Rio, so I mean it was just kind of workaday Rio. And so we would sing, and then someone from the Primeira Igreja Batista de Rio de Janeiro, the First Baptist Church of Rio, would come and do a little sermon, and then we'd sing some more, and then they'd talk, and we did that. And then on the weekends, we would go out and we would do that in country markets. Now, in the U.S., when you think, country or farmer's market, you think kind of like a small town parking lot, and there's like maybe like a McDonald's and a gas/bait store. And then like an empty lot where some farmers will come in with their trucks and sell stuff, and that's kind of what you think. In Brazil, you go to the country market, you go into the Amazon jungle, and they're in the middle of the Amazon jungle. You can like walk down this trail, and then there will be a plaza of red bricks, not half the size of this room. And then people will come in farmers will come in from all over whatever valley you're in, and they will sell their stuff. And so we would go there and we do the same thing. And while we were between sets, one of the girls wanted to go walk across the plaza and get a Coke, and one of the rules that we had was that none of the girls were supposed to walk anywhere without a guy along with them to keep an eye on things, because it's just simpler. And so one of the girls was like, hey, I want to get a Coke, will you go with me? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And so we go over there to get a Coke, and while she's getting it, this guy steps out of the jungle. He's about 5'3". He's wearing a pair of like crusty old cutoffs and nothing else. He's got a big snake draped across his shoulders. He's got several more in his dreadlocks. He's got a snake around each wrist and a snake hanging from each belt loop on the cutoffs. And he comes in and just lets out this primal howl, and the whole market goes dead quiet. And he points his finger at me and screams something and it's not even it's not in Spanish. It was in whatever the local native tongue was. And points his snake at me and screams some more and stomps his feet and then marches off into the jungle. And there's just this long silence. And then I say, I think I'll have a Coke too. And that was the first thing anybody said in the entire place. Was I turned to the guy selling Cokes like, I'll have a Coke as well, thank you. And I just ignored him because I was 17. What are you gonna do? And so our native guy who was a local from Rio, he was a Brazilian. His name was Carlos. Carlos was the most Irish-looking Brazilian person you've ever seen in your life. He had bright red hair, pale skin, freckles, bright green eyes. Serious. And his favorite American song was "My Ding-a-Ling." He was just the nicest guy and funny and good to the kids. I remember that. But Carlos was friends with me because I knew additional lyrics to "My Ding-a-Ling" that he hadn't heard before. And anyway, so he comes over and I'm like, hey Carlos, what was that all about? He's like, I'll go find out. He goes talk to some people and comes back and he says, well, Jimmy Butcher, he says, that guy's a witch doctor, and he put a curse on you. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And Carlos says, yeah, well, the people here, they say he's killed 4 people with his curses in the past 2 years. But it's just superstition. I'm like, okay. All right, that's fine. And so we went back to the camp. We were staying at a summer camp. For people here who have been to a summer camp in the United States, you know what a summer camp looks like. There's like a pond or a lake, and there's some cabins and a dining hall, and that's what summer camps look like. You can go swimming in the lake, or sometimes there's a pool, sometimes there's like motorcycles or horses or something like that to ride. Some of them have paintball, and there's all stuff like that. But it'll be on somebody's farm next to a park or something. And in Brazil, summer camp's in the Amazon frickin' jungle. I mean, we had to drive 45 minutes down this bumpy trail that looking back on, I'm like, how could that bus possibly have done that? That would never have been allowed here, like that. And then that got you to the dining hall, which was an open-walled dining hall. It was just like a pavilion because that's all you need there. And then there was another half-mile walk back on a trail through the jungle, a dark trail through the jungle to the cabins. So we got back, we got to the dining hall, and we're walking back to the cabins, and I'm walking with Carlos at the back, and the rest of there's 2 flashlights, and Carlos has one, and the guy in the front has one, and all the kids are kind of strung out between talking as we're going back. And we're walking back along, and I look back over my shoulder, and Carlos's light has stopped, and it's just shining on the ground. And so I go back over to Carlos, and I say, hey, what's going on? And I look down, and I look down, and there's this track in the ground, and Carlos says, that is a Jaguar track, Jimmy Butcher. And I can't remember seeing one this big before. And it's inside one of the footprints of one of the kids up ahead of us. So it just went by. And he takes the flashlight and he goes, he says, I like you, man, stay close. And so we walk back to the cabin, and we're leaving the next day, and I'm so tired of being there because I'm like a complete coward about new foods. Like, I have a rule. I will try 2 new foods each and every year. And it was just so different there, and I was starving, and I was just so ready to go home and have hamburgers and French fries. Hamburgers without poached eggs on them. That's a thing. In Brazil, it's a thing. And so I'm getting ready to pack up, and I'm loading up everything. This is my second trip to Brazil. So I had learned some things, and this time I brought a giant thing of Kool-Aid mix with me, right? So that I could have something besides bottled water. And so I'm packing up, I'm cleaning everything up. I pick up my big thing of Kool-Aid, and I'm getting ready to put it in my bag. I pick it up and turn it like this, and on the other side of the Kool-Aid thing is a spider, about as big as my hand. And it jumps at me, and I like bat it out of the air and jump back. I'm like, and it's a cabin full of teenage boys between 14 and 18. So it goes crazy. I mean, it just goes insane at that point. Where everybody's like, oh, wait, you can't kill it yet. I'm just like, get out of the way, I'm just gonna kill it and go to bed. They're like, you can't kill it yet, we gotta get the video camera. It was 1988, people, I mean, So out comes the video camera, and they're like, okay, go. And the spider had jumped at a couple of kids meanwhile. And I finally am like, and I pick up my dress shoe that we sing in and kill the spider. And Carlos comes running in a minute later. He's like, hey, what's all the noise? And they're like, Jimmy killed the spider, look. And they showed Carlos, they held up the camera. Carlos picks up the camera to watch it on the screen. And he's like, smiling. Like that. And then he kind of lowers the camera and looks around, and he says, did this spider bite you, Jimmy? And I'm just like, no. He's like, you absolutely sure? I'm like, yeah, why? He's like, well, it's like 45 minutes to the road, another 30 minutes to the hospital, and I think you'd only have about 60 minutes. You're kind of little at your size, I don't know, man. I'm like, okay, thanks, that's awesome. So the next morning, I was the first one awake because I had been dreaming about spiders all night. And I go down to the showers to get a shower, and I kind of go up to the shower door, and I'm like, and I turn around, and I get a mop, and I push the shower door open, Sure enough, there's a snake in there, which has happened like 4 other days while we were of the 10 days we were there. You know, so it's not like it was not like I was stunned by that at this point. But I go and shake Carlos awake. I'm like, Carlos, there's a snake in the shower again. He's like, okay, I'll get the hook. And he gets the hook and he runs down to the shower and runs out again a minute later. And runs down the trail to the camp director's house, which is down by the dining hall. And then they come back up carrying a pole with a cable on it. And then one of them goes in there, and then they come back out a minute later with the pole and the cable, and they put the snake in this heavy-duty bag, and then zip tie it shut. And then they throw that in the back of the truck and start driving it away. And I look at Carlos and I'm like, bad snake? He says, pretty bad. I said, yeah, I want to go home. So the next day we got to tour the city and of Rio. We actually did tourist stuff, and we saw Sugarloaf, and went to a beach in the middle of winter. And we went to a mall and did some shopping and so on. And then we got to eat at a Brazilian steakhouse, which they hadn't really imported to the United States very much at that time. And this was hardcore. They don't give you any go stop plate holders or anything. They give you food unless you tell them no. So if you're talking to your friend here and the waiter comes up on this side, you have more meat on your plate unless you caught it. I ate monkey and anaconda at the same meal there, not knowing it. Then we go to the plane, we're getting ready to fly home, and a couple of guys from the First Baptist Church of Rio come running up to us. And they're all, wait, don't get on the plane yet. And I'm like, why? They're like, we want to get video of you getting on the plane and going home safely. Can you just identify who you are? And I'm like, sure. I said, hi, I'm Jimmy Butcher from America, and I've been down here singing with Kansas City Eats for Christ, and now I'm going to go home and eat some hamburgers and french fries. Bye. And then I got on the plane. Didn't think anything else of it. 3 weeks later, we get a letter from the folks in the First Baptist Church of Rio, and apparently they took the video and they showed it to the folks back at that village, and this was the first time this guy's curse had missed. And so the villagers beat him with cricket bats because he'd been extorting money from everybody in that valley, and the villagers beat him with cricket bats until he left. So yeah, I mean, what happened there? Was that coincidence? Was that magic? Was it parapsychology? Was it psychology? I don't know, but that's what happened.
And you can attribute it to either Coke or Carlos, maybe, that you managed to escape.
Oh yeah. Well, Carlos handled all the dangerous stuff except the spider, So
right.
That was just a spider. So.
Well, and that actually, I did have another question about that, so that explains a lot. I was going to ask you, what was with the spiders? Now I know why.
Perhaps you have noticed some spiders in my work.
Yes. Now I get it. Okay, I think we're on this side. Yes.
Hi, Jim. Thanks for being here today. My question concerns Harry and Lashiel, and I've always wondered what Harry would be capable if he fully cooperated with Lashiel.
The Dresden Files at Changes was a huge crossroads for the series because I had a very limited view of what was going to happen for the next 8 or 9 books after Changes. I mean, I knew what Ghost Story was going to be because that was the 13th book in the series, and I've got a wizard PI, so he's got to solve his own murder, obviously. But it was a big crossroads because Harry could have taken 3 paths to go get Maggie. He could have taken a 4th path, which would have been suicidally charged, and that could have happened. Except I wanted to keep making money. I had this thing with my kid was going to go to school, and I thought perhaps he should have an education, so I thought I would do that. But his 3 choices were he could go with because he still remembers all the stuff from the Dark Hallow. So he could have picked up Kemmler's work and become the new Kemmler, in which case we would have had a much more necromancy series. He could have gone with Lashiel and summoned the coin and used whatever powers that she had given him, or he could have gone with Mab. And he chose Mab as the most predictable evil for what was going to happen. Not the least evil, but the most reliable one. So he did that. But had he gone with Lashiel, Essentially, she would have been his black magic tutor. Bob would have had a huge crush. She would have been. She would have kind of been around him all the time. It would have been her keeping him alive over time. Over the next book, although it would have been a slightly different book. And then he would have had to start. He would have been dealing with. Nicodemus and company as frenemies rather than as enemies. But on a consistent basis, he still had to deal with them as frenemies in Skin Game anyway. So, it would have been much different. He would have had different things that were temptations. Lashiel would have been trying to isolate him from his friends. Actively trying to isolate him from his friends, not kind of just hoping entropy did the job for her the way Mav is planning on. It would have been a much harsher story, but a lot more sex too. So sales would have been fine. Anyway. The necromancer one, I don't know how that one would have flown with an audience. So I'm kind of glad he didn't go that way. But I didn't know what he was going to do until I was writing it. So thank you very much. Sure.
Thank you. Over here.
Well, who are you?
Oh. I'm Jim, I write the Dresden Files. My name is Jim, I write the Dresden Files. And there's a million words I haven't done. Just you wait, just you wait.
Yes. Or do you think this is so easy? I have one question for you. What comes next?
Soon you'll see. You'll get to read what's been written by me. Sorry. All right, for you non-musical theater nerds in the audience, that was hilarious.
Okay, over here.
Okay, I know he's a cat, but was there any specific inspiration or character or person for Raoul?
For Raoul. Raoul is, I'd never owned a cat when I started writing Cinder Spires. I'd never had a cat in my house. I'd never lived with a cat. It'd never been cat life had not been my thing. But I knew cat people. And I knew how cat people thought about their cats. So I kind of assimilated Raoul out of the cat people I knew, and put him together. Now there's an actual Raoul. In my home that I share with my fiance, there's a 30-pound ginger Tom Maine Coon named Raoul, who is a jerk. Not to people. He's a jerk to all the other cats, but people, he's like a complete brown nose. He'll come up to you and he'll be all cute and he'll snuggle and play and stuff like that. But he's not a cat person. And then, actually, we've got 4 cats. 3 of them are Maine Coons, and they'll all be appearing in the next Cinder Spires books because now I know about cats. But there's Raoul, who is that big ginger. There's a giant white one who's bigger than Raoul, who's got one blue eye and one gold eye, and we named him Bowie. And he'll be appearing as Commodore Boton in the next series. And he'll be the ship cat of Grimm's friend, Bayard. He's Bayard's ship's cat. And let's see, Benedict's gonna get, and that's Bowie. Bowie's my buddy. When I come home from working out, Bowie immediately goes to the affection spot, and I don't get to do anything else until affection has been dispensed. He's best cat. He's very cool. And then there's Meryl. Meryl is Bowie's little sister, and she's an all-black cat, and she's a ninja. She is the knight. She lurks in all the high places and looks down on all the other cats because they're too big to jump up there. And then the other cat we have is Kitty found 2 feral kittens that have been born under her porch. Only 2 of them survived the winter, and she managed to trap them. One of them she got to in time to socialize with humans, and now he looks like a Persian, and he's with a family now who loves him and snuggles him all the time. This is like we've rounded up and homed like 6 cats from the neighborhood since I moved in. But his little sister never did adjust to people, but she bonded with our cat. So we're like, okay, she has a society here, she can stay. And she's this little tiny 4-pound thing that is full grown now and is never going to get any bigger because she was starving when they were born in the winter and they were starving. And she's a hate machine. She's full of hate. She's a little tuxedo cat, so we named her Zatanna, but she should have been Arya. She's just a beast. And the other cats are like, oh, okay, listen, we're not gonna, Bowie tries so hard to get her to socialize with people. When he plays with her, he'll chase her around and she'll just be like, and Bowie will be like, but we're playing. And when he swats her like this. Like that, so she knows. They're adorable. But we've gotten Zatanna to the point where she will come by and see us and get petted on the head. And now we can do tummy rubs now. So we're working through her issues slowly. Cats are complicated, man. Dogs are not complicated. Not nearly so much, but cats are a handful. There's no telling what those things are going to do. But she'll be Benedict's cat eventually. I'll introduce a cat named Saza, who's just a tiny hate machine. We'll just be like, we should kill them all, and Benedict will be like, no, it's not polite. As she sits on his palm, But I'll have fun with that. And the Cinder Spires is going to be so much fun because we get to go to other spires and get to go to the surface and get to do all these other things that I haven't got to do, with the chess-playing bears and all the other things that are the cool things that are happening on that world. And then you get to find out where they came from, and that'll be even more fun. But anyway, thank you. You're welcome.
Good.
There, some spoilers for you.
Do you ever lurk on the fan forums and see what the latest theories are? And does that change your writing? Or like, you see who people have guessed is in the last grave, and you're like, crap, gotta rewrite that.
I used to go by and read the crack theory for the Dresden Files all the time, but at some point it got so far out there that I hurt my neck shaking my head. So I don't do it as much anymore. Occasionally I swing by and I'll read it, and I'll just be like, how could anybody possibly think? Oh, yeah, I guess yeah, okay, that theory makes some sense. But wow, I don't want to have to learn ancient Babylonian. But I mean, there's all these theories out there. Some of them are cooler than what I came up with, and I'm like, aw. But I still got my outline from my notebook, from my college course when I put it together, because at the end of when I first turned in the first few chapters of Stormfront to my teacher, she looks up at me and she says, "You did it." And I said, "What?" She says, "You did it. This is of publishable quality. This is work that someone will pay for." She says, "I don't know if this will be the first thing you sell, but you will be able to sell this. It's actually good enough to read." No, man, this was a professional writing instructor. She had like 45 novels published at the time she was teaching me. She was preparing people for the real world of writing, and she did not pull punches in her class. If you couldn't handle that, then you couldn't be a professional writer, in her opinion. So she came at you right in your face. I mean, I had her reacted to, her reactions to my writing included negative reactions up to and including rolling up the chapter I had just given her, leaning across her desk, hitting me on the head with it and saying, "What were you thinking?" That literally happened. But after she did that, after she looked at those first two chapters and said, this is good enough, I was like, wow, because she had never said anything positive before. Never. And it was all of a sudden, it was just like from 0 to 100 miles an hour. You're awful, you're awful, you're awful. You can be a published writer now. Like that. I mean, that was how it went. And then she says, now you need to plan the rest of it. And she meant the rest of the book. But I went home and planned out the rest of the series. And then I came back in for the next consultation the next week, and I was all like, did you see this? I mean, and here's what we're going to do. I'm thinking a 20-book series, and like with a big old 3-book capstone trilogy at the end, like a big, thick honking books for the capstone trilogy at the end. But we'll have like 20 of these case books to build up to it, and then the big epic thing at the end. What do you think? And she looks at me, and I can remember the look on her face. Because she was thinking, and I know that she was thinking, I don't want to discourage Jim now that I finally got him on board with the writing program. Now that he's finally enthusiastic about what I'm teaching him, I don't want to discourage him. But I also don't want to tell him to go start writing a 20-book series and try and sell that, because there's no way he's going to sell it. So, and I just saw her, and looking back, I can see what she was thinking, at the time. I finally saw her think to herself, okay, Wile E. Coyote, just run right off that cliff. But apparently I never looked down, because nobody told me it was impossible to sell that series. So, seems to be working out. But at this point, the notebook was so important. I'm superstitious about forgetting it now, so I'm just sticking with the plan that I made when I was 25, because that kid was a moron, but he was onto something. So.
We're here.
Howdy, Jim.
Hey.
Oh, I'm sorry. So with Molly and Harry's new status in the fairy world, what kind of love triangle were you expecting when you started writing this with those two and Murphy?
Oh, I never planned any romance aspects of the series at all. That was something I wanted to be organic to the story. And I mean, it's sort of it's not really a love triangle, because Harry would have to be more interested in Molly. This is an unrequited situation, for Molly, poor thing. But on the other hand, she's doing well for herself these days. I don't know if you've read the latest Molly short stories, but she's kicking ass at this point on her own right. She's not Harry's apprentice anymore, and it's fun. It's fun writing that, as she's growing up. But no, it wasn't something I planned out, and I didn't know if things were going to work out with Murphy either. So we'll have to see what happens. There's romance in the next book. I'm not good at writing romance, but there's some there. Although, man, if I was half the mercenary writer I like to pretend I would be writing romance novels, because that's where the money is. Or maybe children's books, I don't know.
So, question on your choice of point of view between all your works. Was there a deciding factor on making Dresden a first person, whereas most of your other works have been rotating close third persons between the cast? And if so, what was it?
Oh, no, there was never a question about that. I was going to write first person because I didn't want to write first person. When I decided to write Stormfront, you have to understand that I was at this point where I'd been working with my writing teacher for a couple of years, and she'd been trying to get me to do some other stuff, but I was writing Swords and Horses fantasy. I was going to write epic fantasy. That's what I was going to do. And she kept trying to encourage me to write new things and different things. And you don't understand. I'm a fantasy author. Like that. And my fantasies look exactly like Tolkien. That was how things are. And at some point, finally, I'd been arguing with her because I was 25 and I knew everything. And so finally, she says. Finally, I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to prove to her that she's wrong. And you know how I'm going to do it? I'm going to do it by following her every instruction. I'm going to fill out every little form. I'm going to do every character outline. I'm going to do absolutely every little thing that she wants me to do. And that's going to show her, and at the end of the process, she's going to see what total cookie-cutter pablum crap emerges from that kind of rigid writing process. And so I wrote the first book of the Dresden Files. which clearly showed her. But anyway, so that was where that got started. As far as writing third person, I think writing in third person gives you many, many more options of how to tell your story and how to present drama, which is another way of saying much more rope with which to hang yourself. Writing third person is a lot harder than writing first person because you've got to make so many more decisions about how you present your story and how you present the drama of the story. But it also gives you so many more ways you can do it. That's the only writing in third person is the only way you can make a book reader scream, "Don't open that door!" at a character, because first person you can't pull that off. But it's kind of fun because when I'm working on another project, I write other projects in the third person because I get so sick of Harry Dresden. You guys see him. He comes over for you guys. He comes over for a weekend once a year. All right? I live with him for 8, 9, 10, 12 months at a time. He's like a roommate, and he's a terrible roommate. If you were roommates with Harry Dresden, you'd be like, screw that guy. And I get to the end of a book, and I'm just like, I am so sick of this self-blaming, self-loathing guy. I'm so tired of him and his mouth. And telling everything from one point of view and being so restricted and limited. Oh, finally, I get to go over here and play with this other story, do all these other things, and have all these other characters and ideas and plots. Oh God, what am I doing? How can I keep this together? By the time I get to the end of a third-person story, I'm just like, oh God, can I just hang out with Harry Dresden some more? It's so much simpler. So because I'm a self-loathing masochist, I live in that cycle, and you reap the benefits. Which, by the way, to those, for everyone in the audience who actually pays for those benefits, thank you. We live in a day and age where you need not pay for your books if you really don't want to, where it is easier to go out and it is faster and easier to download them illegally than it is to actually pay for them. So for the people who actually pay for books, for writers who've done their work, thank you.
Yes.
Very much.
And I'm afraid that is all of those are the end of the questions for us, where our time is up. And I believe, did I hear a rumor that you have a signing now? Is that correct?
Yes, I've got a signing in the autograph hall. I'm going down to it. It starts in half an hour, I think.
Right. Okay.
So,
it's in the Marriott. Okay. Well, you can probably get there.
Yep. Marriott. Okay.
Yeah, you can probably get there. But yeah, we're going to mention that.
The fan film Red Sun, which has been produced by Tower of Turtles and is an original piece by them. It's Harry Dresden versus vampires. Harry Dresden and everybody versus vampires. They spent about 2 years putting it together and filming it, and it's going to be premiering Sunday night.
Yes.
So what's that? 10 o'clock. What room?
It's the Savannah.
The Savannah room, 10 o'clock in the Westin, correct?
In
the Westin, yeah.
And
so come for that. It'll be a lot of fun.
Thanks for listening to the Author Stories podcast. For more great author interviews like this one, go to hankgarner.com and dig through the archives. There's something there I know you'll love. Tune in for new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. Now stay tuned for a special audio clip from Richard Gleaves' The Jason Crane series.
They reverently slipped Jason's giant-size X-Men #1 from its mylar protector, drinking in the sweet aroma of browning paper and 3-color process that signals only the best and rarest and most wonderful of collectibles. On one page, Professor X raised his fingers to his temples and rallied his X-Men, his psychic commands radiating from his bald head like waves off hot asphalt. "I have psychic powers," Owen blurted. "I want Wolverine's claws." Jason was turning a page. "Snicked! Or, hey, get this. Lightsabers poking out the backs of my hands. Or even, no, I'm totally serious. I have psychic powers." "No, you don't." "I do." Jason laid the comic on the bedspread. He sighed. Owen could be such a spaz sometimes. "Okay," he said indulgently. "What number am I thinking of?" "Stop, it doesn't work that way. What I can do is called a psychic reading, off an object, like getting impressions. When the doorbell rings, if I put my hand on the knob, as soon as I do, I know who's there." "It's called looking through the peephole, moron." "Shut up! And when I touch the phone, I know who's calling." "I'm sure, Mr. Bullshit from Bullshit Mountain. Like my sister or my grandmother, I just know it's them. There's no such thing as psychics." "Okay, you try." "Don't be stupid. Are you chicken?" "Fine." "Okay." He snatched up a brown paper bag, spotted with grease, and dumped a few stale French fries into the trash can. "I'll put an object in this bag, and you try to guess what it is. Turn your back." Jason did, and heard a rustling behind his head. "Okay, you can look now." Owen produced the bag. It was rounded with some object now. "Don't touch yet, just think. Try to imagine what's inside." "Your lunch?" Jason sneered, but he closed his eyes and tried to imagine. He could hear Owen's breathing. Jason's nose itched. His brain grew bored with nothing to look at, and fragments of images swam in and out of his imagination. "Strawberry," he blurted. Owen reached into the bag, producing a white bowl. Jason had eaten Frosted Flakes from it about 3 days ago. A few stuck to it, like little beige fish scales. "See? I lose." No, look here. Owen pointed. A design went around the sides of the bowl. A long string of vines and painted fruit. With strawberries. That's... Jason began, but didn't know how to end the sentence. It's cool. See? What did I tell you? Do it again. Jason closed his eyes. An image like daisies and sun and... Yellow, he blurted after 3 seconds. Oh my God, open your eyes! Owen held a bright yellow highlighter pen. I hadn't even put it in the bag! And so they went, for 30 minutes or more. A staple remover, a toy soldier, a sweat sock, a pencil. Jason never said precisely what was in the bag, but it was always close or related. He'd imagine a cockpit, and Owen would produce a game controller. He'd say plate, and the object would be a CD. He made right angles with his pointer fingers, shrugging, only to have Owen pull out Eliza's knitting needles. His friend became more and more enthusiastic, but Jason became a little scared. You have a real gift, Owen said. You're brilliant. Owen babbled for a long time about astral projection and ESP, how Jason was picking up signals from Owen's own psychic powers, which had obviously been doing the broadcasting. Owen left that night full of plans and experiments, vindicated in his beliefs. Jason sat on the bed after Owen left, thinking hard. He had no explanation for what he'd done, but he knew he hadn't faked it. He couldn't believe, but he couldn't deny either.